I've had a love-hate relationship with the HX Stomp since the day it came out. Now I'll save the gory details of why perhaps for another video, but unlike any other tech product I've owned, I've actually gradually warmed up to this thing over its lifespan through the free and semi-frequent updates. Does it have the largest quantity of the most realistic, best sounding amp models? Nope, I think it has a few really nice ones that are fun to play, but it does have what I consider to be the most simply creative and inspiring effects of any amp modeling unit that I've ever used. Again, it doesn't have the quality, quantity, or tweakability of something like the Axe-Fx offers, but it presents what it does have in such a simple and curiosity-inducing manner that you can't help but stumble over just really creative and inspiring sounds to play with. And that's exactly what happened with the intro track to this video. I was messing around with the shuffle looper, twiddled some settings, hit record, arpeggiated some notes, and before I knew it, I had this really cool shuffled, splice, pitch shifted backing to play along to, which is super inspiring. And it even then built this melody and track around it for this video. And I think Line 6 strike a nice balance between having something that's quite powerful and creative, but without having to page through tons and tons of menus. Even if you don't understand what each of the settings are doing, it's relatively easy, like I did, to just like fiddle around, turn the knobs, and then hit go, and then just see what comes out. Now, there's tons of people that have done full breakdowns on exactly how to use the shuffle looper and all the effects in the HX Stomp. I'm not one of those guys. I'll link to some of my good friends and people that I watch in the description if you want to get really in deep with what the shuffle looper is actually doing. But what I'm going to do in this video is show you the preset I've built that I used for the intro track, take you through the settings, explain a little bit about what I think is going on, how it's working for me, and show you some other creative uses with it that I really get a kick out of. So let's get into it. Okay, so the preset is built around the stomp mode, and then I edit the actual interface with the command center to be able to do various things. But what I'm doing is I'm assigning the delay stomp to the first foot switch. I'm assigning the snapshot cycle to the second foot switch, and then the actual shuffle looper engage itself to the third foot switch. So what you'll want to do if you don't have that third foot switch available, if it's flashing as the tempo, is go into the global settings. So double press both the page buttons together at the same time, press then the page right, and then global settings. Then scroll with the main knob to the foot switches. Under foot switch 3 function, have it set to stomp 3, not tapped tuner. At the end of the video, I'll show you how to assign the foot switches in Command Center, but for now, let's dive into the main meat of the preset, which is the shuffle looper settings. So I'm going to hit the home button to take us into the signal chain view, and then scroll, if it's not already, through to shuffle looper. And then what we have here is slices, sequence length, and shuffle. So what you will notice from the intro track is that I'm playing essentially 4 bars of eighth notes. I'm doing this it's based on a dance tune that I used to play in a function band. That's where the actual chord sequence comes from. But it's going. And then the shuffle looper is taking that and then messing with it. So it's sort of shuffling everything around, slicing it up, and then pitch shifting it, and we get in this really cool effect. But basically what this means is that you can take any 4-bar loop of eighth note arpeggiated chords, and it's going to sound pretty cool. So with these particular settings. Now, if you adjust the settings, you'll have to adjust the loop that you're playing accordingly. Or if you were to play an 8-bar loop, then it's going to sound different. So you can experiment with this, but I first stumbled across this just by hitting the maximum length for the slices and the sequence length, maximum shuffle, and then I just accidentally stumbled across this 4-bar loop. So that's the first page of settings. If we page across to the next one, we have the octave at 50%, and this is how much it's going to throw things up and down the octave, pitch shift it up and pitch shift it down. Then the reverse, 50%, is how much it's going to reverse each of those slices in the sequence. And then repeat, we've got it 0 because we don't want to overextend the sequence by repeating anything. If you page across again, we've got the smooth setting, and this is between each of these slices that it's kind of chopped up, how smooth is it going to transition between them? And I find that 10% is cool there. Drift is how much the actual loop is going to alter over time. Now, it's set to 0 for a reason, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. The playback I've just set here to -3, but you could assign that to an expression pedal and adjust that on the fly if you wished. And then the low cut and high cut we've got there set to just the default. So what this is going to result in, and I'll demonstrate this now with perhaps a different chord sequence. If I just clear this, make sure this loop is clear. Yeah. So I'll just do another 4-bar loop of 8th notes, different chords, and we're going to get somewhat similar but different effect. So let's try that. So if I play this back now, that's really cool. It's taking this E major chord and this A major chord, and it's creating this driving kind of groove aspect to it and pitch shifting it up around. But still you can hear the core of the chord sequence in place. The other thing that this brings me to, and this I did this in the track as well, is here I have this loop, and this comes back to the drift element in the settings I was talking about here. Now the drift is set to 0, but that means it's not going to change. It's going to go round and round like this forever. But if you hit the shuffle button again just once, it's going to reshuffle it again, which creates super cool effects over time. So as you're hearing, this is as it's been from the beginning. But if I hit it before it cycles back around, it's changed. Hit it again. You can start to hear the rhythm changing and the pitches shifting differently. And again. It's super cool. So I did that in the intro track and for effect at the various section changes with the melody and the sort of spacey kind of guitars. And double tap to stop it. Let's go through the rest of the preset and then I'll show you how to assign and set up the rest of it. If I scroll through to the start of the signal chain, I've got the gate turned off. You can set a gate if you wish, but really importantly, and this is something I'm going to talk about a lot more in future videos if I do things with the HX Stomp, I've got the input Z setting, which is the impedance setting, to 1 mega ohm. That is essential for me, and it's one of the reasons that I've hated and been in a fight with the HX Stomp in the past. That has to be set to that, otherwise for me, it's a paperweight. So then coming off of that, we've got the kinky compressor, and this is only going to kick in on some of the other snapshots where you've got more of the drive aspect. But settings wise, we've got sensitivity at 5, mix at 49, attack at 0, release 10, level at 3. We've then got the air apparent, so the king of tone, or the prince of tone I think it is. So gain at 5, tone at 5, presence at 3. OD clipping set to the higher gain mod, level at 10 and voltage at 18. We're using the Line 6 ohm model. This is a litigator model, and it's kind of Dumble-esque inspired. It's a super nice amp to play with. It can go really nicely from clean through to pushed through to driven, and I think you get some really interesting and inspired sounds from it. So that's on more of a driven sound. If we go back to the clean, so this is all just one amp model. It can go right from clean through to dirty. So settings wise for these different snapshots, if we go through to the first snapshot 1, I've got the drive on 4, bass on 6.4, mid on 7.3, treble on 4.5, the presence is roll all the way off, and then we've got 6.7 on the channel volume, which is a snapshot assigned, and then 6.7 on the master, 5 on the sag, 5 on the hum, 3.8 on the ripple, 5 on the bias, 5 on the bias X. And then if I cycle through to the second snapshot, the drive changes to 10. So this is, the second snapshot is more of a mid-gain kind of tone. Even though it's on 10, it's not a super beefy amp, so we get this kind of a tone. Again, so the rest of the settings remain the same. The only thing that changes is the channel volume drops down to 4.5. And then again, if I go through to the third snapshot, I think everything stays the same. Oh, the channel volume might come down a little bit again to 4.2. The third snapshot's got more gain, but that's coming from the air apparent, from the drive pedal and the compressor. So that's the amp block. And then if we're scrolling across, we've got a cab block here. We're using the 4x12 greenbacks with 25. The 4038 ribbon mic, a distance of 3 inches. We've got an 80 Hz low cut, a 6 kHz high cut, and then we've got 50% reflections and 0 level. Scrolling across, I've got transistor tape in stereo. It's set to a quarter note, feedbacks at 54, the wow and flutter at 3.6, the scale at 100%, the spread at 2.9. The mix is at 45% on snapshot 1. So for this clean sound, the clean sound that's actually getting shuffle looped, this is at a much higher mix. And this is what allows us to get this working for the shuffle looped clean sound. Now, when I cycle through to the driven sound and the lead sound, that goes down in the snapshot to 30%, and then 27% for the full lead sound. Then we've got level at 0, headroom at 0, trails are off on this particular one. And then moving along finally to the reverb, the dynamic plate. It's in stereo. I've got 3 seconds delay, 3 seconds decay, sorry. I've got 10 milliseconds pre-delay, 3.7 kilohertz damping, 3.3 modulation rate, M-ring, I'm not sure what that's rate. Is it modulation? I don't know actually what those are. Anyway, that's what the settings are. 30% mix, and I've not really touched the rest of this, so the EQ is all at 0 really. So the final thing that I'll do in this video is show you how to set up the performance mode, and this uses a combination of the Stomp performance mode and also using the command center to assign a special function to one of the switches. So the first thing that I do is assign the delay, the transistor tape delay, to the first foot switch. So I go into edit mode and then select the delay, press the 2 page buttons together, bypass assign, and then foot switch 1, transistor tape, it's latching. That's going to allow us to turn on and off the transistor tape. And then the next one we'll do is do the shuffle looper assign. So again, into the edit mode, highlight the shuffle looper, press the 2 pages together, bypass assign, foot switch 3, okay? Then make sure, once again, just a reminder that you've got foot switch 3 assigned in the options to, in the global settings to Stomp 3, otherwise you won't have that option. And then finally, and this is where it's a little bit more tricky, is we're going to assign this middle switch to cycle through the different snapshots. So I can have the clean, press the middle button and get the driven sound, and press it again, and get the lead sound. Okay, so to do that, we're going to double press the page buttons, hit Command Center, and then we can cycle through this sort of like virtual representation of the stomp itself. Select the second foot switch. In the command, it's snapshot, and then we want the behavior to be press release, yeah, and then it to be next. So when you press it, it goes on to the next snapshot. And that is going to allow you to be able to play your clean sound, get your loop set up with a shuffle looper, and then when that's running, you can then turn the transistor tape on and off if you wished. So I could hit the loop, and if this delay is too overbearing now, I could turn it off to get and be able to solo with a clean tone. And then I can also hit that middle button and get my lead tones. That just about wraps up everything I can think of for this particular preset build. But if you've got any questions, do drop them in the comments below. And if you like the preset file itself to load onto your Stomp, again, let me know in the comments. You could follow through the settings watching the video, but if you want to load it onto your own device, then I could probably hook something up as a download link in the description. Also, let me know what are the most inspiring effects that you've found, be it within the Helix family or otherwise. And are there any other effects on models within the Helix that you'd like to see me mess around with for particular future videos? If you've liked the video, then do hit the like button and maybe think about subscribing and hitting that bell notification icon. That would be much appreciated. You can get guitar courses and tutorials with me over on my website at davidbeebe.com. Check out the podcast that I host, the Guitar Hour Podcast, at the Guitar Hour Podcast at theguitarhourpodcast.com, and also Solo, my app that I built for developing your fretboard visualization and your changes playing. That is available for iOS devices on the App Store and Android devices on the Google Play Store. All links are in the description below. And until the next video, guys, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.